Say it with me now. It is game week. Yes, indeed. It's here. The sport that only lasts for 3 months that we talk about for 9 other months. It's finally here. 12 football games, and game one is on deck. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to Three Guys Before the Game, episode number 482. Yes, it's West Virginia and the Nittany Lions of Penn State on Saturday night in State College, and we begin our breakdown on this episode of Three Guys Before the Game with a special conversation with the voice of the Nittany Lions of Penn State, Steve Jones. Three Guys Before the Game is brought to us by the fine folks at Burdett Camping, the only warranty forever RV dealer in the state of West Virginia. You buy the RV there, no matter how long you own it, the RV lasts. Well, the RV won't last forever, but the warranty will. Well, you know what?
Well, maybe the RV will last forever.
The RV may last forever. I guarantee you this, the warranty will last forever. You buy it, and it lasts forever. BurdettCamping.com. Three Guys brought to us by Comax Business Systems, keeping West Virginia's business data safe, secure, and efficient for 25 years. By GoMart. Go for good times. Go for GoMart. Sign up to become part of the Mountaineer Man Trip by going to GoMart.com. Get the details there. And, of course, you get yourself a GoMart Rewards card. Saves you money on gas and the 52-foot Slim Jim that they sell, along with a 75-pound marshmallow pie. Just get all those items right there.
And some Funyuns. Three Guys also brought to us by Lou Wendell Marine Sales in St. Albans, the premier pontoon boat dealer in the state of West Virginia. They sell family fun. Website, LouWendellMarineSales.com. LouWendellMarineSales.com. They sell the Avalon boat series, the pontoon boats, and we're still trying to confirm, don't know if it's true or not, but this is Lou Wendell's same people that provide, when they shoot the James Bond movies, whenever you see Bond on a pontoon, they get it from Lou Wendell Marine Sales. Unconfirmed.
Our crew is working on that, trying to get us a final answer. I'm pretty sure it's true, though. Let's jump in, man. Here it goes. I know baseball people, when the start of the season begins, they just get this mass amount of emotion that just makes you tingle. Same thing for college football fans, right? You can just kind of feel it. You get excited. We had week 0 this past weekend. Several games were played. We'll talk a little bit about that. We've got Textual Healing coming up in just a little bit. But right now, let us welcome the play-by-play voice of the Nittany Lions of Penn State, Mr. Steve Jones. Steve, thanks so much for being with us, my man.
Tony, it is great to hear you on the other end. I'm looking forward to seeing you this weekend. It must be refreshing for West Virginia to play a road game in Eastern Time.
Yeah. Yes,
well
indeed.
Said.
Yes, indeed it is. I was thinking this morning how far we go back. Now, this is how far we go back. So I started here in 84. That was before digital audio. So as you remember, Steve, phone call would be made, and the call would be like, hey, do you have any Penn State audio sound bites? Yeah, I've got some Paterno, and I've got some of this, and I've got some of that. Okay, can you send it? And you would flip a coupler and send it down a regular phone line, and we go, you got any Nealon? Yeah, we got Nealon, and we send them down the Nealon cuts, and that's, so I think.
What would you flip?
Flip the coupler.
Of
course, Steve, right? The coupler. You just flip
a coupler. This is after we edited them by splicing tape.
Exactly right. Had 2 big reels of tape. You had a grease pencil. You made your razor blade cut. You put your little tape on there, and I got it. Yeah, I got it. Great.
So these young guys have no idea how easy they have it.
Oh, my gosh.
Not splicing anything.
Things have changed. Hey, man, so we were talking just before we rolled here. Let's do a little background. So you have been the basketball play-by-play voice since 1982, and football since the 2000 season. So you are in one of those very special, unique positions that you have seen Penn State from its days as independent into the Big Ten, and now you guys sit back and you watch your league expand, you watch the rest of the conferences across the country just do crazy things that we never thought would ever be possible. Before we talk ball, just kind of give me your perspective on all of this that we've just seen this summer.
Well, obviously it's been crazy because, you never would have imagined that, Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA would all be in the Big Ten Conference. You'd never imagined that Arizona State, BYU, and Utah and Colorado. Well, Colorado, I could imagine, would all be in the Big 12 to go with UCF, Cincinnati, and others. It's amazing how it's all come together. And I think that when you look at what the Big Ten has done, USC and UCLA, when Texas and Oklahoma went to the SEC, somebody brought up to me, hey, what do you think the Big Ten's going to do? And they started rattling off Iowa State, Kansas. I said, are you kidding me? I said, if you're going to expand, go big. All right? Go big. So obviously the biggest chip in the game is Notre Dame. Okay. I said, the next biggest chip, I said, would be USC. This is 2 years ago. And they looked at me like, USC? I said, yeah, USC.
Wow.
I said, Los Angeles market. I said, look, they are not beholden to the state. They're a private institution. And I said, I'd go big. Right? Now, did I think they were going to do it? No.
Right.
But then they brought UCLA with them, and I like the idea that they were, at staying at 16. And I also like what the Big Ten was doing with the schedule, because the original schedule they put out had everybody playing everybody home and away over a 4-year stretch. Now that's a conference. That's the way it should be. You should go to everybody's stadium once in a 4-year period, and they should come to your stadium once in a 4-year period. That way everybody sees everybody. How they're going to do this with Oregon and Washington now, I don't know. And I talked to the conference commissioner, Tony Petitti, who was here last week, and they're not sure yet.
Right.
They're working on it because it happens so fast. And the name of the game is TV. The name of the game is money. Tony, you and I get on the plane. If the coaches and the players get off the plane, we follow them.
Exactly right.
So I don't really worry too much about it.
Yeah, just tell us where to be, when to do it. Yeah, but you're right. And the Big 12 is going through the same thing right now as to they'll have 16 once everything gets set a year from now. Do you go pods? Do you go 2 divisions, but you do pods inside your divisions? It'll all figure itself out. And it's just it's going to be interesting to say the least. Your football team for Saturday night comes in ranked number 7 in the country. You guys finished incredibly strong last season. You won your last 5 games. In fact, your only 2 losses last season were at Michigan and against Ohio State. Other than that, you ended the year victories over Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers, Michigan State. You win your bowl game against Big 12 member Utah. Of course, against Big 12 member Utah. And you have your off-season announcements in which key members of your team say, no, we're not leaving, we're coming back. So with all of that as the precursor, you've done this a lot of years. What's the level of anticipation and excitement as to what could be for this season for the Nittany Lions?
Greatest level of anticipation since 2017, deepest team since 2008, and with the players that said they were coming back and not going pro, reminiscent of '86, because the same thing happened with Penn State in '85. Like a number of guys from Shane Conlon on down all said they were coming back, and they played in '86. So those would be the year comparisons. Mm-hmm. I mean, every team's going to be different. The competition is going to be different. But they played Ohio State. They led that game with 8 minutes to go, couldn't win. They actually were, despite the final score, were beating Michigan in the third quarter at Michigan. And obviously we know what they did. They ran crazy with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. It's a good football team, and it's a deep and athletic team. But you have a new quarterback, a new starting quarterback, which I'm sure you'll get to in a moment, but a lot of talent at running back. I mean, not just good talent, big-time talent at running back. Big-time talent at tight ends. They've got big-time talent at linebacker and in the secondary and at defensive end. But it's like every team in college football. I mean, there's still a couple things you're not sure about going into the season. Let's see how the quarterbacks perform in the opening game. Let's see how the defensive tackles perform. Let's see how the kicking game plays out as well. Those are all things that just can't be answered until you actually play a game.
All right, Steve, let's start there. You brought up a bunch there that we want to get to all of those different pieces. Let's start at the quarterback position and take Drew Aller first, the talented, highly acclaimed 5-star quarterback that's presumably taking over. I know James Franklin hasn't announced that as we record this podcast, but let's talk about him specifically for a minute, his strengths, and then how do you think Franklin handles him in this game? Does he turn him loose a little bit, or does he play more conservative with him?
Well, let's start about his strengths. He's really good moving in the 3-foot circle in the pocket. The ball comes out of his hand a bit differently. I mean, it really, zing, the ball goes. I mean, so in other words, let's take just a basic, flanker screen, with a couple of blockers in front. Well, the guy can get going right away because the ball gets there quicker. He throws the deep ball really well. I think throws really almost everything well. Turning him loose, I think they'll turn him loose. I don't think they're going to sit there and just, and play a game and gradually, integrate him. I think the idea is he can handle a lot of things and he can go. The fact that he has a running game is a huge plus. I mean, Penn State went through a couple of years before Singleton and Allen, where they had good running backs but not great running backs. And it showed because you can't really go to the fourth quarter of a big game and run a play-action fake and you're not running the ball. Nobody's going to sit there and respect it. Now with these two guys, and then the addition of Trey Potts from Minnesota is really good. Now they can run all sorts of things with them. They can use them out of the backfield. They can play-action fake with them. And I think that Aller's not going to be somebody that's going to be babied as the season goes. I mean, they're going to just play their game with him because I think they have a lot of confidence in him.
More on him. So I was watching him last night. I was watching him not only play the game, I was watching him be interviewed. So he seems to have those intangibles that you want. Firstly, physically, he just seems like a big, strong fire hydrant kind of kid, right? Like he's got a thickness to him.
Right.
I mean, even his voice sounds like, hey, let's go, let's do this thing. He's got that it factor. Is that a correct perception?
Tony, it's interesting. He and Bo Perbula, because Bo's really good. They've really competed hard for this. And if you were to sit there and say who is the natural, more outgoing leader of the two, it's Bo. Drew has had to work himself into being that more vocal guy along the way, which he's done because he knows as the quarterback he has to, and he has to do it at this level. And because of that, that's the area where he's worked on the most. He's not a guy that swaggers in. He's not a guy that he commands the room because he's a quarterback. He commands the room because he has great size. But he's a really down to earth kind of guy. Now, he's also a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan, so that's going to keep you grounded, which I kid him about. But I mean, that's an area where he's had to, in his personality, has had to be, more juiced up. It's more natural for Bo than it is for Drew. But when you have the talent he already has, the universal respect of his teammates.
All right, Steve, up front, obviously a top 10 pick over at left tackle, a lot of experience returning in that offensive line. Strengths and potential weaknesses of that line would be what?
Well, Olu is obviously not a good player. He's a great college player. He gave up literally, I don't even think he gave up a hurry last year, which was really impressive. And he shocked everybody by coming back, including his parents. I mean, he's the one that made the decision. Hunter Norzad has moved from starting guard to center. That's gone well. Sal Wormley is now in his second year as a starting guard, and he is much better now than he was a year ago. Caden Wallace is a veteran starting at right tackle. And over the past couple of years, Penn State fans will tell you that they have not been happy with how he has played. Now, he has had a terrific camp, and everybody's kind of kept it low with him because of the criticism that Wallace has received in the past. Now we have to see him do it in a game. And we watched him in practice. Have you seen the improvement there? Yeah. Now you're going to see it in a game from it. And then, and so that's and they'll get help from the tight ends because the tight ends are critical in this offense, not just catching the ball, but as blockers. Theo Johnson, Tyler Warren, and Khalil Dinkins are guys that will also help out, especially in the running game. Their ability to help in the running game, and that's where they have a big difference. I think they have the ability, if they want, they can play 8 guys in the offensive line. They're capable of playing, at least at this time, So they can go, at least, let's see, too deep at 3 spots. But, for example, Benga Ioane, Tony, you can practice that for the rest of the week.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Benga Ioane can play all 5 positions, right, for example, and he'll probably play in the game. Tony doesn't have to mention him. He just needs to know Singleton, Allen, Aller, and guys like that.
And that's exactly who I was just going to bring up. And as we said at the start, you've got great perspective on the great players who have gone through Penn State for nearly 50 years. So with that being said, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, your 2 running backs, a tremendous tandem who ran for over 1,900 yards combined last season. Put into perspective that 2 together, and then go back in Penn State lore as to where these guys rank.
Well, they went through their freshman year, and they just rotated them here and there, and there wasn't any kind of plan like, okay, one guy will start, go 2 series, and the other guy will finally come in. And the interesting part, Tony, is that after 13 games, they were separated by 11 carries. That was it. Talk about how it played out organically. They're different. Singleton has that great burst. He broke off so many long runs last season, including the 87-yarder in the Rose Bowl. And he just has that speed that when he gets to the edge and there's a crease, he's very difficult to catch. Katron Allen is terrific at the inside run and the jump cut. And impressive in that way. So there's just enough differences between the 2 that you have to think about which guy is in the backfield at a particular time. They also don't care who carries the ball, which is something every coach loves. These 2 are standing next to each other in practice all the time. And it's something that, they'll line up, you saw last year Penn State use that T formation in the backfield. And, each one of them is carries out of it, and they don't care who ends up doing what. And that's the kind of situation you want. I think Allen is the better receiver of the 2 coming out of the backfield, although you love to get Singleton in the open field because of the speed. Then they've added in Trey Potts, who gained 1,100 yards rushing in Minnesota. And he's from Williamsport, which is 60 miles from State College. And he just wanted to come back home to play. Well, he's been a really, really good third addition into that backfield that can take pressure off these 2 guys during the course of the game. Comparison, geez, you're talking about Penn State's had multiple really terrific running backs at the same time as recently as Saquon Barkley and Miles Sanders together. Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad tandem to have. Okay, Barkley's coming out. Let's replace him with Miles Sanders. This will work.
Right.
And they've had tandems like that over the years. Just like West Virginia's had some great tandems too. But these 2 are exactly what Penn State needed, because that is what they were missing so badly in 20 and 21. They were missing that element in the backfield, and they have it with these 2 guys.
All right, Steve, let's flip over to the other side of the ball, because as talented as this Penn State offense is, it appears that the defense might be even better. A lot of people saying it could be the number 1 defense in the country. I know there's superstars at every level, and we'll get to some of those. But let me maybe ask this a different way. Where would the potential point of attack be against this Penn State defense? Because as you look on paper, there's not one that's obvious.
Well, I think when you look back at the Michigan game, what concerns everybody would be how will Penn State play at defensive tackle? How will they play in the middle? Because Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards both ran for over 100 yards that day in Ann Arbor. And James Franklin talked about, look, we've got to be bigger in that spot. We have to be bigger up front. They've done that. Akeem Beeman, for example, who was playing in the high 250s, low 260s a year ago, is now in the mid-280s. Zane Durant was playing about that same weight. Now he's in the mid-280s. So they bulked up in that area on the defensive front. And also Kobe King as a middle linebacker is a more physical presence. He and Tyler Elsdon will split the time there. They'll probably end up playing equal reps. But King is more experienced now, and that really helps in that power running game against teams. Secondary is really good, as you pointed out, in the pass game. And what helps is you have linebackers. And, and I get all of my linebacking information from my broadcast partner, Jack Ham, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm the genius that tells you about linebackers. I'm just parroting everything he tells me.
he may
pretty good source.
Yeah, he may know.
Yeah,
he may know. Yeah.
Yeah. You look at Jacobs as a 3-down NFL linebacker. I mean, he'll be in the NFL, and he'll be able to play all 3 downs because he can play the run well. He scrapes on a blitz, and he understands the proper depth of a drop of a linebacker. Abdul Carter is a special talent. Once he got into the lineup full-time mid-season, it made a big difference in the winning streak that Tony's talking about. So, I mean, that's where they are with these guys, and that would be the point that you're wondering, how well will those defensive tackles, and then has Kobe King made the advances, which we think he has, in watching him? I mean, Jack and I have watched him. We think he's a lot better. He has a more physical presence in that center spot.
So I'm looking back at the numbers from last season, and toward the end of the year, this defense gave up in its last 5 games 14, 0, 10, 16, and 21. So if I'm going to stand here and say, okay, tell us where the weaknesses are, it may be a little bit of a head-scratcher, although you gave some interior run stuff against Michigan. So let me ask you this. There's a strong chance that West Virginia will run its quarterback with somewhat great frequency, which has people I know already barking in State College.
Yeah. They're fighting each other this morning.
Yeah, that's all right. It's game week. They got to go too, Steve. I mean, it's time. They're tired against practice. They've been practicing against each other for a month now. They just want to go.
That's right.
What would a quarterback that runs at all be a concern?
Let's see. That's really good because they didn't face a lot of quarterbacks that ran last year. Wimsett of Rutgers can run, but they didn't have the offensive line to stack up. They don't have the veteran offensive line that West Virginia has, and I really like West Virginia's offensive line a lot when I watch them on tape. Indiana's quarterback can run, same story, but and West Virginia's offensive line is better. So they didn't really face a lot of running quarterbacks. And Cam Rising of Utah, no, too early to bring that up.
No, it's fine. No, we're gradually warming toward them. Yes, we're gradually warming toward them.
Obviously can move, but they don't run options with him. So a team that runs option, Penn State doesn't see a lot of during the course of the season. It's not like 20 years ago where a number of teams ran it. Now it's very few. A lot of people are running spread, and those are the kind of teams they're used to seeing. That's why I felt Notre Dame in the opening weekend, it was the right time to play Navy, because having to adjust to their style of play mid-season in practice is difficult. Getting ready for them in the preseason gives you all the time in the world to get ready for it. You saw they gave up 3 points.
Steve, defensive backs extremely talented. We've mentioned that a couple of times here, and they like to play man coverage, which at times has given West Virginia problems. Are they physical? Will they get up and play a lot of press coverage? How will they handle the coverage part of that back end?
Well, the coverage part has been, Johnny Dixon and Kalen King. King had it. With Joey Porter Jr. over there last year, people picked on Kalen King. And then they figured out they couldn't go at him. It was a big problem. So when they got to the Rose Bowl, Joey Porter sat out to get ready for the draft. This is after Joey had an appendectomy, too. And Clark Phillips of Utah sat out. And both were considered high picks, and Joey ended up being the first pick of the second round. And somebody asked me, what kind of impact it'll have in the game. I said the difference is Penn State has Johnny Dixon and Utah doesn't. Mm-hmm. And Dixon is really come on and played well. And they're going to rotate guys out there. Other guys, Cam Miller is going to play out there. Daquan Hardy out of Pittsburgh is going to play out there. In the secondary, losing a Jair Brown, who looks like he's going to start for the 49ers, is one of those losses because not just his ability to read everything, because he had 10 career interceptions, but he also was the quarterback in that secondary, the communicator that got everybody into the right spot. He also had the ability to play in the box. So they have to replace a guy like that. They have to replace not only his physical ability, but they also have to replace his mental ability and the fact that he was in the secondary. last year. So they have to replace that part of it. One of those subtle, small things that coaches will talk a lot to you about that maybe a lot of fans may not realize and think about all the areas that a guy could contribute. So that has to be replaced, and they have to find that guy at the safety spot that can get to the right, and also have the ability to go into the box and play physically the way Brown could last year.
Couple more, and we'll let you go, and I really do appreciate the insight. So special teams, obviously we don't talk about those enough. Forget about punts and field goals. Let's just talk about return game. Do you have anyone special back there that we need to be aware of?
Well, I mean, last year they put, believe it or not, they put both Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen back on kickoffs.
I see that right now,
yeah. And in fact, Singleton took back a kickoff 100 yards for a touchdown against Rutgers. I mean, so they put those guys back. This goes all the way back. Remember I'll make West Virginia fans go, the days when they put Kurt Warner back there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kurt Warner took, I think, 3 kickoffs back in his career for touchdowns in his first couple of years. So they're a big believer in trying to get something out of that. Most teams will try to fair catch it, which Penn State, like everybody else does the same thing. Just take it. And it's going to be that Penn State has the explosiveness in that part of its game to get something going. The punt return game, let's face it, the vast majority of punts these days are fair caught.
Yeah.
Along the way, they've worked 2 or 3 different guys back there. Parker Washington did it last year, but he's with the Jacksonville Jaguars now. And so the explosiveness in that part of the thing with the punt game, you're just trying to make sure you don't lose hidden yards in the punt return game and in the punt game. Kickoff return game, you got maybe more of a shot to get a couple of big plays here and there. I mean, the preference is not to return a lot of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You know what else you said, though? You know what else you said, Steve? Something that we talked about how much things have changed through all these years. You said that Nicholas Singleton returned to kick 100 yards last year against Rutgers. Isn't that one of the nice things that hasn't changed? I mean, you still have Rutgers on your schedule. That's a given. I mean, that's always a nice thing.
With all due respect to Rutgers.
With all due respect, I'll tell you, we'd like to see Rutgers on the schedule, on somewhat of a...
Rutgers, Maryland.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have the... It's especially in basketball season, Tony.
Oh, I know, buddy. I know.
I mean, I mean, hey, let's go to Hames. Hey, great.
I was just thinking, you're out there too, right? You're like at some point early on in your Big Ten arrival, I would think that at some point you got into Iowa City and you kind of looked around and go, what exactly are we doing here? Aren't I supposed to be in McGonigal Hall at Temple?
Well, I was in Iowa City one time. It's 1996. Okay, 96. We go in there. We land in Cedar Rapids. It is 27 below zero.
Sure it is, yeah.
Okay. Yep. It got to a low of 34 below overnight in Iowa City. I'm watching TV that morning, and they do the old thing where they pour the hot cup of coffee and they throw it in the air and it crystallizes.
Yeah.
I'm looking around thinking, why? Okay, anybody think about the ACC? Anybody?
Oh, I know. Trust me.
I could have been at Florida State today. Wait.
No, you're right. Pac-12, the late Pac-12 and the SEC. There's no question they got the weather beat. ACC pretty good too, and then us, up here we just it is what it is. We get through it.
Believe me, I thought about it. Hey, let's go to Lincoln. Great.
Yeah, it'll get cold there too. Yeah, first time we went to Ames to play Iowa State, dude, it went through your bones cold. And it was and those fans are unbelievable, passionate. They're there regardless. They got their snowsuits on. It's wild. Absolutely wild. Well, listen, we really
that was in September.
Yeah. It was November, but I get what you mean. It can be. Well, but listen, we look forward very much to seeing you guys on Saturday. And we really appreciate the time. We appreciate the insight, and wish you guys the best of luck going forward throughout the course of this season.
Same here. I think it's a thrill for all of us to have West Virginia back on the schedule. I think it's great, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the great Mountaineer fans at Beaver Stadium because they are great fans, and I know because I go back to the old Atlantic 10 and Eastern football days.
Yep, absolutely. All right, buddy. Be good. Thanks. We'll talk to you.
Hey, thanks, guys. You're the best.
Thank you. There he is, the voice of the Nittany Lions of Penn State, Steve Jones. Just a wonderful, wonderful perspective because he went all the way back. He gave us a Kurt Warner reference. So he has seen the totality of it all.
Yeah, I was going through some records there as we were talking to him. They have 4 11-win seasons under Franklin, 7 since Steve took over the play-by-play calling duties. And I know he's been around longer than that, but you're right. He has seen some really talented teams. And I think the fact that he opened up there in those years that he referenced were all 11-win teams for Penn State. So we didn't need Steve to tell us, but it backed up what we've been saying. You're getting a flat-out loaded Nittany Lion team here. This is a heck of a first test for this WVU team.
And it's going to be extremely, as if you needed any more excitement, which you don't if you're the visiting team. You're going to have it because obviously the game is going to be played under the lights. It's going to be the first game as part of NBC's new Saturday Night Football package. And so it will be absolutely revved up. And so regardless of what transpires, you can look at it a bunch of different ways. But this is going to be an incredible learning experience for everyone within this West Virginia side to see exactly where you are and figure a lot of things out.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what you need to have expectation-wise. Obviously, you're going up trying to win a game, but this is we just said, a really good Penn State team. Will clearly be the best team you face on the schedule all year in the toughest environment, so it doesn't get any harder as West Virginia moves on. So I think that's the important part here, is go in, have some success in different areas that you can build upon, try and keep the confidence up, and walk out of there knowing that's as hard as it's going to get all season long.
I guess, yeah, that's one way to do it. But you go in there and you take your swing. You go in there and you take your swing and see what happened. But I'll tell you what, watching tape last night of those running backs, extremely impressed with those running backs. As he said, Singleton, great breakaway speed, and you take a look at a couple of those moves that Katron Allen had as well. As he said, he runs really well inside tackles. And the thing that caught me was really, really good, both of them after first contact. After first contact, they still scoot. And Neil has been stressing you've got to do a fantastic job in tackling, fundamentally tackling, because it's going to take more than one shot to bring these cats down.
Yeah, we mentioned on the last episode that Singleton was top 10 nationally last year in yards per carry after contact, nearly 5 yards per carry after you first hit him. So to back that up, yeah, you've got to get to him, you've got to wrap him up and try and limit those big plays that he busts out on.
All right, coming up, Textual Healing 3 guys before the game, brought to us by the Burdett Camping Center. Right now, all of their 2022 fifth wheels, $3,000 under the invoice, $3,000 under invoice on all 2022 fifth wheels. Also, continuing with that offer of the $10,000 off on the Burdett Camping Forest River Travel Trailer and Toy Hauler, $10,000 off American money. 3 guys, also brought to us by Comax Business Systems. There's so much more than your local copier guy. Like if you said, hey, who's Comax, Brad? Well, they're just a local copier guy. Oh, no, they're not. What they'll do is they'll come into your business. They can handle all of your business data, your IT security, and yep, they'll still do equipment. They can do your phone system from 1 line to 1,000 lines. They got it. Just call them in. If you've got concerns as a business owner regarding your IT, regarding your equipment, give them a call. They'll come in, free estimate, and let you know how they can help you. You ready to do this thing? Ready to do this thing? I'll tell you what, people are getting creative on these texts. A lot more pictures. People send a lot more pictures in now.
Good. I like to see pictures.
Yeah. Also, I'll get to it, but we had one communications issue last week. I didn't brief you on that one.
You did not?
No. It didn't go well. We're in the communications business. Sometimes don't communicate really super clearly.
Okay.
Yeah. You ready to do this thing?
Sure.
Nate in the Kanawha Valley checks in. Guys, a lot of new rule changes are coming to college football this year. What are your takes on the change to a running clock after first downs and less 2 minutes to go? Do you take any issue with the consecutive timeout ban? Nate in the Kanawha Valley.
small sample size, I get it. The first weekend of games, what was it, 7 games, it didn't change much. No. Shaved 3 minutes off the game and shaved about 5 plays per team off there, so didn't have much effect.
Yeah, I talked to an official in the spring, and they said they didn't think that first down, not stopping it on first down is going to mean much. And literally, it's so much different. Like baseball, obviously, with the pitch clock has changed the game significantly, but I don't think it's going to be a whole deal. It's going to be negligible. Texter, Tony. Actually, not Tony. Gentlemen, I enjoy the podcast after filling my growler with Kercheval at Stone Tower in Bridgeport, and after hearing some of the stories about WVU around the world, I wanted to share my story. While we were in Italy, first day in Rome, a cab driver, mid-20s, asked where we were from. And when we said West Virginia, he began singing Country Roads.
Of course.
Cab driver in Rome. Yeah. Next day, we stumble into a Steelers bar, which also turned out to be a multi-team bar, including WVU. There it is, Brad. In Rome. You got Penguins, got Steelers, and then you see a little flying WV. This is a bar in Rome, ladies and gentlemen. This is not Lumberport. It's in Rome.
So they've done a nice job there. So obviously in the Pittsburgh area, big fans are the professional sports team of the Steelers, the Penguins, and then the premier college team of West Virginia. That goes right in. Yeah,
there it is. Welcome, West Virginia fans, in a bar in Rome.
Sure, of course.
I walked by that. I didn't go in, but I walked by that bar when I was in Rome.
Did you see the flying WV?
I saw the Steelers flag. A week later, during a glass factory tour in Murano, which is the famous glass place there, our mid-'70s guide asked us where we were from. And then he broke out into Country Roads. Really is a small world with WVU and West Virginia in it. There you go. Isn't that kind of neat?
Love it.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Texter continues, by the way, my wife and 2 siblings own 55 acres in Harrison County with a barn full of junk and a tree stand full of bees. Signed by Dink, born in Biloxi, Mississippi, raised in Weirton, 10 years in the Air Force, 3 years in Morgantown, 39 years in county in Bridgeport.
Thank you, Dink.
Appreciate that. Good to see you. Texter, hi, guys. Randy from State College. It may be time for me to pay the piper. I've lived in the last 25 years in Happy Valley, attending Penn State sporting events. I've got season tickets to both football and basketball. That may sound like a bit of a traitor, but in my own defense, I really enjoy college sports. They're the only show in town. If Penn State wins, I'm happy. If they lose, well, I'm still kind of happy, specifically when I'm discussing a loss with a friend or a family member who's going through sheer agony. I like to think they don't see through my ruse, but instead believe I'm consoling them, when in fact I'm just patronizing them, throwing a few well-timed jabs just to make them feel a little worse. It's shameless, I know, but hey, I suffered a lot in the 80s and the 90s, and I needed to take it out on someone. I like that. Question for both of you. Like most, I've got some confidence in our offensive line and run game. I'm more concerned with the D-line. We lost 2 key players from last year's team, and unfortunately, Penn State also has a very good running game. What's the outlook for our D-line? Can we tie up the offensive line and let our backers and safeties make plays? I love the show, Randy. Let's go Mountaineers.
Number one question on the defensive side is right there, Randy. I think you've identified it, and that's the question. Quite frankly, the answer is don't know at this point. But that's what you're going to see. You're going to see them running heavy, and they're going to try and big boy West Virginia from a size perspective. You heard Steve mention those talented tight ends. I was hoping their tight ends would take a hit. Brenton Strange, West Virginia native, graduated or moved on. He's in the NFL.
Right.
They didn't take a step back. They've got 3 really good ones, and they're going to try and run and use their size and then set up that play action. So you're right on it. That's the critical question right there.
Texter, 3 guys. Had the chance to watch Swamp Kings, the new documentary on Florida's run of dominance under Urban Meyer. I can't help but notice every time a top 10 poll was shown, West Virginia was in it. I saw as high as 4 and 7. I think people forget how good we were, consistently good those 4 to 5 years. Time really brings it into perspective, I guess. Rich Rod is who he is, but one thing for sure, he knew how to win football games. Yeah, Rich got one Saturday.
That's a big win for them. First win as an FBS program.
I loved watching Rich. He's the same, man. He'd be losing his mind on that sideline. Did you watch him at all?
I did.
He gets those. He just tightens every guard. Oh, boy. That was a good win. Texter, 3 guys. Hello. Spent some time recently at some land down in Ritchie County that my in-laws have. Shocker. First picture is a flying WV version of Stonehenge. Second picture shows a Mountaineer-themed outhouse. Note the dilapidated barn in the background. I love this show and love the pride that our state has. This is signed by the Three Guys GI doc. So this is that gastrointestinal doctor.
Welcome back.
I think he listens to our podcast while performing colonoscopies, if I'm not mistaken.
Also unconfirmed, though.
Unconfirmed, but I think he does. If he doesn't make everyone listen, I'm sure he's got earbuds in listening to it. It goes really good with that sound that's in the operating room. Boop, boop, boop. Texter, hello, love the summer series. Started my 40th year of officiating on Friday Night Lights. After the first play from scrimmage, I hear in my earpiece, "Hoppy, hoppy, hoppy." I immediately respond by giving the first down signal with a smile on my face and a thumbs up to my back judge, Andy. I love the show. It's game week. Very anxious to see how the world champion Mountaineers stack up. I feel better about this year than last. Be positive. Efforting to get to Morgantown for a game or two. Let's go Mountaineers. Signed by Fred from Hurricane. Sent with loud effect.
Love it.
So they are using that call. That crew uses the call when it's time to move the first down sticks. Hoppy, hoppy, hoppy. I didn't realize high school officials were using the earpiece.
Wearing earpieces?
Did you notice that?
I did not. Good job, Fred and Andy. By the way, good use of efforting. Did you see my T-shirt today? I liked yours the other day, so I finally got mine in. Short sleeve.
Two things on that. Firstly, yeah, it's very nice. How smooth is that material? Really? That's very
really is
nice. It is very nice. You can get that shirt plus a whole lot more on our website at efforting. No, it's not. It's episode800.com. Episode800.com. Crushing the coffee this weekend too. I had people in. Crushed the coffee. Texter, this really is almost heaven. John Denver, 1980. Leave, no doubt, tonight. Bill Stewart, 2008. Because Mauve had its day. I think you know that. Tony Caridi, 2023. Great moments in Mountaineers soundbite history. Signed by Stephen Eleanor. Is that the line you were talking about the other day, but you couldn't remember? Because Mauve had its day. I think you know that. And I think you know that. Well, it did. You know, it came and it went. Kind of like pet rocks. They were in and then they were gone. Everything had to be mauve. Mauve, mauve, mauve. Mauve did have its day. You all know that. Texter says, I listened to episode 481. I am now convinced we're playing against the monsters of the Midway led by Dick Butkus's clone. My over and under pick is now 100 yards of total offense, and after listening to that, I'm taking the under. Signed by Michael in Culloden.
Well, he'll really think that after hearing Steve earlier.
Yeah. Texter, haven't missed an episode in years. By the way, this week is our 6-year anniversary.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Thursday when we come back and do the show, I'm going to have numbers and metrics on the show. It was the 30th or the 31st of August of 2017.
Huh.
This is a 6 year.
6 years.
Mm-hmm. You believe that crap?
No.
6 years.
No.
Tell you what, we're going to give it another good 3-4
months.
months.
We got a year in.
We're going to give it about another 3-4 months. And we're going to put the curtain down on this bad boy. Texter. Haven't missed an episode in years. First time I've texted. Last Saturday, I ran a 5K. The race was about an hour from where I live. On my way home, I was listening to episode 478. I, of course, didn't want to eat before the race, so I packed myself a little cooler of snacks to eat on the way back. I had just polished off a handful of nuts and a few venison sticks from a deer we harvested last year on my in-laws' farm in Waynesburg. I was just about to dive into the part of the meal I was most looking forward to. 2 big squares of Rice Krispie treats my wife had made the night before, but these were not ordinary Rice Krispie treats. They had butterscotch chips melted throughout and a chocolate coating on top. And as I was about to grab the first one, Tony started to explain the Rice Krispie treats that had been brought into the studio by Matt and Savannah Jones that also had chocolate and butterscotch. Mm-hmm. I thought to myself, there are no coincidences in life. I must be on the same spiritual wavelength as the 3 guys before the game crew. Thanks for providing a weekly connection to my home state and alma mater, both of which I love so much. Signed by P1 Ryan in Noblesville, Indiana. How about that?
That's a wild...
My man's reaching his hand in for a chocolate butterscotch, and we're sitting on 478 talking. Those were extraordinarily good.
As you're reading that, I wish they were still here. I'd have 5 of them right now.
Now, I don't think they were that good if you were diabetic, but they were really, really good.
I liked them. Congrats, Ryan, on the 5K. Well done.
Well done. Congratulations to you. Texter. Hello! Spreads, scopes, and hopster, although I doubt the sabbatical is over. Long-time listener, first-time texter. I was driving in this morning, they said Hoppy's had a sabbatical. Heard Chris Lawrence say, Hoppy's on sabbatical. Sabbatical? That's a long time. He ain't on no sabbatical. He'll be back next week. Boy just had to stretch his legs. Anyway, I enjoyed the Neil Brown episode, hoping our world champs can shock the world this year and end up with a surprising season. Very excited for the Pitt game and to host those unbearable Panthers in Morgantown. As a native of Pittsburgh, though having lived in Morgantown for the last 17 years and a 2-time WVU alum, I cannot begin to tell you how much this game means to me. If we go 1-11 this year, I pray the one win is against Pitt and that we shred those good-for-nothings from Oakland. Wow. Last year, there was a lot of talk about analytics involved in Coach Brown not making the call on 4th and 1. Curious if there is a stats guy in the stadium that assists with these calls. Is this something we do or something that other teams do? If not, might I suggest Spreads, that's you, for the role? Though I'd assume his side hustle wagering may be some type of NCAA violation. Yeah, probably. That is if they choose to enforce said rule out of the show Terry in Morgantown. So yes, West Virginia has internal analytics that they work, subscribe to, collect all the data during game week. They review. It's either Thursday or Friday they do their review. So they have a base knowledge based on certain situations, but at the same time, it's still, you're going to go by flow of game, you're going to go by feel of game, right? If the analytics says this, but if the analytics says, I don't want to say anyone's going to get injured. Let's just say there's an injury at a certain situation that blows the analytic out because now you're operating at less than 1. So you're going to change things. So there's still a feel to it, but yes, they do use a lot of base stuff based on that.
Well, real quick on that specific 4th and 1, we spent a lot of time on that last year. The analytics really did tell you it was a toss-up at worst, but slanted towards the punting. Then you take into effect how the defense was playing. So we went through that. That one in particular, the numbers did tell you to kick it.
That's correct. However, that's also like a face tattoo. That one will never come off.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, my point on that, as we talked a million times last year, you can say that all you want, and that's fine. But don't say that the numbers told you to go for it, because they didn't. It was a coin flip. You could have gone either way.
It was a 50-50.
Yeah,
right.
the winning percentage changed only slightly if you kicked it. It was one that you had to feel on how you were playing.
Here's where I screwed up. Tony, I hope you received the bag on Wednesday, and I hope they were real nice. If not, let me know and we can arrange something else because the senator needs a bite too if he didn't get one Wednesday.
Well, this is a shocker. I didn't get one.
Hayden was stoked for the shout out, and after we started talking about it, we decided that we were much younger than 7 years old listening to you on the radio, more like diapers. We actually have a vivid memory from his late father's restaurant, the Stray Cat Cafe, when Quincy Wilson steamrolled his way to the end zone against Miami. We may have been too young to be at the bar, but we had our own spot by the pool tables and a 20-inch bubble TV. Heartbroken when they made that field goal. Let us know how much you enjoyed the Chimneys, signed by Grayson, Kaiser, West Virginia, by the way of Stinky, Michigan.
What'd you do?
Why are you looking at me like this?
Because I'd love to comment to Grayson, but as he correctly identified, you were probably going to screw this up, and I did not get a bite of the chimney.
So these are the cats from, no pun intended, from the Stray Cat Cafe down there, Star City, right?
Okay, yeah.
So they texted and they said, "Hey, we want to bring you some chimichangas because that's our special. Fry these chimichangas out." They based out of Kaiser. Now they've moved to Morgantown,
sure.
big city. Probably were in Burlington actually. I don't even know if they were in Kaiser. Maybe were probably Kaiser, Metroplex, Burlington. Anyway,
looking forward to these chimneys. They sounded really good.
So we're texting back and forth, and I said, he goes, "When can I bring them?" And I said, I was looking, I said, Thursdays are good. Thursday would be good. I think something like Thursday would be good. Not like, hey, in 3 or 4 weeks when we're all back together, bring it on a Thursday. So where was I last Wednesday? Oh, I was doing that, I was doing the thing. I was shooting at something. And phone rings. from here at work. They said, hey, this guy just dropped off these chimichangas. And I'm like, because that was the night I had to go to Doddridge County, so I never even came in. So they said, what should we do? Put them in the refrigerator? I said, no, man, I can't have it. Like, I don't think you can have a cold chimichanga. So I said, bring them to the girls downstairs on our floor and just let them go to town. I have not been back yet to hear how we'll get a report next episode. But we'll do that again. Thank you so much, Grayson. Texter, hey, three guys, Austin, Bedford, Virginia, Charleston native. Tony, I had my picture made with me before the Kansas game last year atop the law school. There it is. I just wanted to comment on how short you make me look. I never knew you were that tall. Although it was rainy and we lost, it was certainly a highlight. Let's go Mountaineers. Thank you very much. There's a good-looking young man there, Austin. Yeah. Thank you very much. Texter, hey guys, give or take a hoppy appearance. Caleb from the edge of the gorge in Fayetteville. I've been to every home game the past 9 years except 2. One for COVID and one to be in a wedding. I missed 2 weddings, though, and I told them both I'd catch them at the next wedding. I did indeed catch them both at the next one. That's what they get for having a wedding on a Mountaineer football Saturday. So how about that? He tells 2 people, don't get married on game day. I'm not coming to your wedding. I'll catch you on the next one, and then they both got remarried. You should use this guy to get stock tips. P.S. I'm making the trip from Fayette County to Penn State. Any food recommendations there? I'm sorry. I don't have anything. I really apologize. We're staying like an hour and a half away from State College, so I don't know. I do not know. Texter. This one, you got to think about this one, so put your head on. This is from Yogi Chris in Salt Lake City. Big 12 country.
Big 12 country, right in the heart of it.
Mm-hmm. We swim in a sea of words every day. We create the world we live in with the words we speak and write. Words can create suffering or possibility. For example, coaches say try or trying. They are not trying. They are running the ball and playing to win the game. Trying subtly creates suffering. So, does the words have to? Hoppy does not have to go to the podcast. He is choosing to go to the podcast. Notice the subtle difference of having to and choosing to. I wish coaches would remove the word try, trying, and have to. Signed by Yogi Chris in Salt Lake City. There's a lot there to think about.
Chris went deep.
Well, I mean, ever since he started texting, he goes deep on certain things. I mean, he's a different guy. Right? I mean, he's not a normal Joe just walking down the street there in Salt Lake. He's a different guy. I wouldn't be shocked if he wore those shoes, those kind of like those foot shoes that your toes go into. Right? That's kind of how I envision that dude. You know what I mean? What do they call those things?
I don't know, but I know what you're
foot sock shoes.
I don't know.
You put
I don't
your
think
toes
that's
in.
what they call them. That's probably not the name.
They had a good run. Just like Mauve, they had a big run. You don't see them as much anymore. Hoka's taken over. Like, we went from like minimalist, put your foot inside of a sock and walk around and pretend that's a shoe. Now you got these Hokas like human mushroom, like marshmallows you walk on. Herb from Aurora, West Virginia checks in. Longtime listener, first-time texter.
A lot of first times today.
Yeah. I just moved back to West Virginia after 45 years away and loving retirement. Been a season ticket holder for decades, came to all the games even when I was living in Florida and North Carolina.
Wow.
Anyhow, I was watching a random show, saw that the University of Arizona has an anchor from the USS Arizona in the middle of their campus. We've got the Bell from the USS West Virginia in the middle of our campus, and it got me thinking. A lot of conference opponents have something they play for. Since we have no ties to the University of Arizona, how about we play for the Bell and Anchor Trophy? I like that.
Very good. Herb.
I figure you got to start somewhere. Thanks, and I love the show.
That's not bad.
Thank you very much. Texter says, Scopes, Senator, parentheses, who was the other guy again? The Notre Dame TV and radio broadcast are drooling over former WVU coach Jared Parker, the new offensive coordinator of the Irish. Hindsight 2020, but Neil Brown's biggest mistake in Morgantown was demoting Parker and bringing in Graham Harrell. Harrell was simply a bust. Fortunately, like Bob Huggins, I don't have a rear view mirror in my truck. On to Penn State. Let's go Mountaineers. Morgan and Morgantown.
I think that's a real name. Morgan to Morgantown.
I'd strongly think not.
Notre Dame offense did roll against Navy. They did anything they wanted. It's amazing when you have a guys up front that can move people off the ball, how everything looks better. And then Sam Hartman obviously helps that team. The Wake Forest transfer is the best free agent acquisition of the offseason by any team.
Yeah, absolutely, no question.
But I was happy for Jared Parker.
Yeah, good.
Because he caught a lot of heat in the offseason from people that didn't know what they're talking about. He lines up, and I was happy to see their offense come through.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Texter, 3 guys. Hello! Well, none other than this is Jumpin' Jack checking in from Mount Vernon, Iowa.
Well, how about that?
Just got moved in today, and of course I had to wear my Efforting t-shirt. There he is. Thanks and love the show. Now, there's a classic example. You just talked about the best free agent acquisition.
Sure.
They got Sam Hartman from Wake Forest. Mm-hmm. Now he's at Notre Dame. We tried to unsuccessfully recruit Jumpin' Jack so he wouldn't go back to that. Like, he went back to that college dorm. We could have given him a plush place here in Morgantown. Instead, he gets up there and puts his Pirates pennant up, his Mountaineer pennant, and his Cornell College pennant up there. We tried hard to recruit him.
Did everything we could.
You think Cornell came in heavy NIL?
Yeah, sometimes you just get beat.
They did, didn't they?
Right? I mean, sometimes you get beat.
They did.
I mean, the guy runs the whole sports program out there, if I'm not mistaken.
Wish you the best, Jack. Thank you very much. Texter. This thing's starting to get deep, too, this whole thing. Hello, I'm chiming in with a potential clarification on the Portuguese pepperoni roll. I would bet that these rolls are made with chorizo, which is Portuguese sausage, and not chorizo, which is Mexican sausage. I've had quite a bit of chorizo in my visits to Rhode Island, and it is a culinary delight. It would also resemble pepperoni in a roll much more than chorizo. Screenshot research to follow. So there you go. Is Portuguese chorizo similar to chorizo? Answer, yeah, they're similar, but they're not the same. Both spiced pork. However, Mexican chorizo fresh, not cooked. Spanish chorizo cured. Portuguese chorizo smoked. So it's fully cooked, ready. Yeah, it's more of a pepperoni. P.S. He says Rhode Island has a large Portuguese population. Yeah, they do. I did know that.
Here's the thing. I'd eat either one of those. Made with chorizo or chorizo. Either. Yeah. Bring them.
Yeah.
Both.
Texter. Luke in Clarksburg writes, I decided to try my hand at sports betting this year. Nothing major, just a little bit here, a little bit there.
Good start.
Well, I used a free bonus bet on the under 48.5 for the Navy Notre Dame game. Now I don't have any ties to this game, but toward the end I was completely engaged, and it actually hit the under 45 total. I was nervous as heck. Now I understand why you do what you do. Ready for a great season. That was directed to you. Luke in Clarksburg.
You got a little sweat. Add some excitement to the game.
Well, you got another disciple.
Well, you
another disciple in your troop.
And that was a sweat if you had that under. I mean, you get 42 from one team there, you think that thing's sailing over.
Yeah,
so good job, Luke. Congratulations.
I was attending a social engagement on Saturday, and the guy I was next to had the over.
Sure.
And they got a little bit bummed out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Texter. A lot of food, this one. Chris in Nashville. Hey, 3 guys. I'm at my girlfriend's apartment over the weekend, and I was looking in her fridge. I happened to notice the word Marzano on a bag. Upon further inspection, I discovered that the bag contained mini San Marzano tomatoes, but the packaging said produce of Canada, clearly indicating where they came from. I tried to explain to her real San Marzano's lore from this podcast, but she gave me a confused look and she rolled her eyes. I'm attaching the picture to make this message so you know. I think you'll understand. I totally know what you do. So what you got there is basically it's the San Marzano seed, but they're grown in a greenhouse in Canada. Well, you get a lot of tomatoes, by the way, in Canada. You go to the Kroger's and you get a lot of Canadian tomatoes, which
big in Canada, huh?
Means it's like geographically doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, so they are. They're mini San Marzanos, but as you well know, Chris, they weren't grown into that volcanic soil to really make them special. Thank you. Tell your girlfriend those are fine, but when she has the real one of these days, it'll be a life changer. Texter, can't believe it's game week. Took in some WVU volleyball here at TD Arena Saturday. Good win against a solid College of Charleston team. They allowed a set point in the second and third sets, but came back and won both and eventually won the match in the fourth. There you go, live looking.
Yeah, nice. Good job.
There you go. Congratulations to you. Texter, field goal kicking, big question this year. Casey Legg made 14 last year, but none longer than 38. You'd think this year someone is going to have to make one longer than 40. You can't have a shaking kicking on a team that needs every break to get to a bowl, signed by Joe in Charleston.
True.
Yeah, I think they'll have distance. They'll have the ability.
It's a good over-under. You want the over?
Give me a number.
Longest field goal on the year, over, under 39.5.
Oh, hell. Over.
Over 43.5.
Over.
Over 46.5.
If we're going to do this, then what do I get to win? Do I get something?
Over
T-shirt?
46.5. No, because you won't want to give anything when you lose. Over 46.5. That's a bomb.
Yes.
Oh.
Don't ask me 48. I'm going 46.5. Someone mark that down. I'm sure you will if I'm wrong. Texter.
Nah, no one will bring that up.
Texter. Second time texter. This is good. Everyone always says their first time. This is second time. Chester from Winchester by way of...
Not really Chester.
Huh?
Not really Chester.
Second time texter. Chester from Winchester by way of Grant and Hardy counties. In the category of woulda, coulda, shoulda, we wouldn't be wringing our hands as much over the NIL if the powers to be would have distributed the original TV monies more evenly, instead of making basketball and football coaches millionaires. In an ESPN 30 for 30 segment, Jim Boeheim explains he just wanted a well-paying job doing something that he loved. When Big East TV basketball money came along, he became a rich man. Recent painful WVU academic cuts make the inflated coaches' salaries seem even more ridiculous. Still own land with my sister in Hardy County. I love the podcast. Keep up the good work. So let's break up your text here to the Jim Boeheim point. Bull crap. Jim just wanted a well-paying job doing something that he loved. Yeah, that's exactly why he just refused those dollars every year. That's why he refused those dollars. Coaches, don't ever believe them. Don't ever believe them. It's all about the money. It's quite simple. Jim Boeheim and the rest of those guys saw the league making more money, and they put their hand out because they wanted more money because their school's making more money. And Boeheim, in particular, when they were in their heyday and putting 28,000, 30,000 people in the dome, you don't think he's going back going like, they're here because of what I'm building, you pay me up. That's bull crap. Meanwhile,
Carmelo Anthony is probably worth a couple bucks, so.
Yeah. Meanwhile, painful academic cuts make the inflated coaches' salaries even more ridiculous. Well, there's no question. I mean, those are big numbers. Those are big numbers. Twofold there, obviously, is that, yes, they are state employees. Yes, they're the highest paid guys in the state, normally, your basketball and your football coach. But just for whatever it matters, and it may not matter to you, those dollars are not state dollars. Those dollars are raised dollars. Brad, you can get into this. Those are raised dollars by the athletic department that generates the dollars that they pay their coaches.
Correct.
Correct.
That's correct. Poor Washington is probably worth a couple bucks. Well, that's a bad example. He might have got a couple, allegedly.
Well, let me just tell you something.
Joking, of course.
No, I'm not. Syracuse was well ahead in the NIL game. They were in the futurist crowd. Saw a few student athletes while I was there driving around in those
Ronnie cycling,
Smokey and the Bandit Burt Reynolds cars. You know those black Trans Ams? Stunning how those young men from deep in the heart of New York City were able to get the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am.
Good financing.
0%. Forever. On everything. Tony, love the show, and I love the over and under show. Here's another prop bet. What's the over under on how long it takes for Brown to pull Garrett Green as a starter? I'd say the under is halftime at Penn State. The over is Green making it past halftime for the Pitt game. Have any of the three of you ever heard him say one positive thing about that kid? I'll so far as say his disdain for this kid is what will cost Brown his job this year in Kentucky. Signed by Ken in Kentucky. Do you feel that?
No, not at all. And give me the over. I don't think he's getting pulled in the first half of this game. Ken may be returning to the last couple of years when Neil would honestly give reasons as to why or what Garrett Green had to improve with. So he may be referring to that. But no, I think Neil's been very complimentary of Garrett this offseason. About to name him the starter.
I think what frustrates coaches the most about players is when they don't do what they're asked to do. You tell them to do something and they do something completely different, therefore you don't have the trust. And I think early on in Garrett's career, he was just such a freelancer that he wouldn't do what he was told to do. And I think Garrett kind of talked about that when he was here. If I'm not mistaken, he kind of indicated, right? He was kind of a wild, fly by the seat of his pants guy. And I think that's probably a lot of it. I think Neil Brown likes Garrett Green a ton, really does. But like a father and a son or a father and a daughter, like, do what I'm telling you to do when I tell you to do it. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem. That's where I think it goes. And he's not getting pulled. Texter, hey, fellas, Jeff in Parkersburg, also known as the Bread Man. Oh, yeah. Remember we met him? It was nice meeting with you at the Caravan, Tony, and hearing stories about your dad's store. I've got a high school question for the senator. With their starting quarterback transferring to Cabell Midland, I'm wondering if my Patriots, Parkersburg South, would take a step back this season. However, after seeing them drop 83 to start the season, I wonder if they will still have enough talent to make it back to Wheeling this year.
Pretty good start, huh? Robert Shockey's who he's referring to, who is also off to a great start. Cabell Midland, 3 rushing touchdowns on Friday night to go along with Curtis Jones, WVU commit at Cabell Midland, rushed for 3 touchdowns. He's also coming here, though, as a linebacker.
Yeah.
Good start for the Patriots, though.
3 guys before the game is brought to us by fine folks at Lou Wendell Marine Sales. Now is a fantastic time to get that boat ready and rolling. Yes, we still have time. Still some gorgeous. I think some of these days coming up are some of the best days of the year. Not hot, not cold, just right. Kind of like, 3 Little Bears.
There's some September good boating Saturdays coming.
Oh, check it out at Lou Wendell Marine Sales. They do sell family fun. Located in St. Albans, LouWendellMarineSales.com is the website, LouWendellMarineSales.com. They feature the Avalon pontoon boats. Check them out. And, of course, if you're coming up for the game here in a couple of weeks, or if you're leaving West Virginia to go to Penn State, stop at a Go-Mart. Get your Go-Mart rewards card, GoMart.com. Save on gas. By the way, I talked to the president, Go-Mart, last week.
Sure.
He indicated to me there had been a sales surge in Slim Jims. Told me. Selling a ton.
Not a surprise.
Yeah. Check them out. Plus a whole lot more.
Big Reese Cups, too.
Oh, yeah. Texter. Happy game week. Logan in Greenbrier County. I'm excited for the season. It's going to be a hard one. My uncle sadly passed away in May. We always watched together. As the last few days of summer go on, I'd like to say thanks for the summer series episode. The last one with Coach Brown was awesome. Summer blockbusters, movies he's talking about, didn't disappoint either. You had Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, The Flash, and my favorite this summer, Oppenheimer. They were all amazing. Let's have a great game this weekend. Make a statement. Signed by Logan.
Thank you, Logan.
He went to the movie theater a good bit.
He did a nice job getting some movies in.
I just saw, the only one I saw this summer was Oppenheimer. I've told you, it's not a movie. It's a film. A little bit of a difference. Just tremendous.
I got to see the Little Mermaid live action. Very good.
Pretty good, huh?
Elemental, very good as well. For you Disney fans.
Absolutely. With all due respect. 3 guys brought to us by Bird Deck Camping Center. Keep in mind, 2022, fifth wheels, $3,000 under the invoice. The only warranty forever RV dealer in West Virginia. BirdDeckCamping.com. Comax Business Systems. If you're a business owner, you need help with your IT, managing your data, you need phone systems, equipment, anything when it comes to business. Comax, West Virginia-based, 25 years, ComaxWV.com. And, of course, Lou Wendell Marine Sales and Go-Mart. That'll do it for us. So here we go, folks. We're done for Monday. We're back on Thursday. We'll lay it out, the numbers, what has to happen in the game for West Virginia. Don't forget, the Senator's wearing it. The Efforting T-shirt series is now available. Just if you want to just shop online, go to our website, episode800.com, episode800.com. I wonder how many of those will be at the first couple games this season.
That's a good question.
I bet you a lot of people.
That's a good question. This is nice. You said it correctly. It is really soft.
How's the food court going? Pretty good, right?
Don't know. Is there going to be one?
We'll have details on that. We are efforting. Special thank you to Lucky Luke Rousey, our producer here of Three Guys Before the Game, and a special shout to Steve Jones, the play-by-play voice of the Nittany Lions. That'll do it for us. We're gone. 3 Guys Before the Game. Talk to you later.